Hello, and welcome to Around the Political World with John Rothman. I am your host, John Rothman. If you're a fan of the show, make sure to hit the follow button on the top right of Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening at this very moment. When you hit follow, leave a review or share an episode with a friend. It helps other people discover the show, keeps us going, and as I like to remind you each and every day, it expands our base. Once upon a time, there was a Republican leader whose name was Barry Goldwater. Senator from Arizona, Republican nominee for President of the United States in 1964, and the man who really kicked off the so-called conservative revolution. Years ago, Barry Goldwater was asked a simple question. What do you think about gays in the military? And Goldwater responded with his usual bluntness, I don't care who's in the foxhole next to me as long as they can shoot straight. That was Barry Goldwater's philosophy. Now, some would say it was more libertarian than conservative, and you can debate all of those issues. But the simple fact is, Barry Goldwater embraced the idea of diversity in the military. His concept was, if you could do your job and you were not an obstacle in any way to the efficiency of the military, why, you ought to be included. And not only that, you ought to be celebrated. And that was Barry Goldwater, who, by the way, also had a member of his family, a grandson, who was gay. Now, Goldwater's sensitivity on these issues emerged over years of change in social attitudes, change in so many approaches. But Barry Goldwater was a person who understood the simple fact that if you were gay and you could shoot straight, it was okay to have you in the foxhole helping defend whatever you were doing. Contrast that with Republicans today. There seems now, at the instigation of Donald Trump, a war against transgender people. Now, I'm talking about this because I've known many transgender people over the years and never thought a thing about what their transgender identity meant to me other than in the interaction I had with them. I observed and continue to observe a simple rule. What people do in their own bedrooms, what people do in the privacy of their own thoughts, is their business, not mine, as long as it does not impact me. Well, the argument that is being made by Donald Trump in his executive order and in comments being made is that the kind of treatment that transgender people receive requires heavy drugs and could be a real obstacle in their efficiency. Well, you and I know that simply isn't true. We know it because there are transgender people in the military, and there's been no problem at all, except when it comes to bigots, people who discriminate against people because they are transgender or gay. That creates a problem. It is not the individual, him or herself. It is the attitude of the people looking at them. And that's the point that I wanted to make today. Barry Goldwater's advice to the Republican Party was, judge a person by who they are, not by what you perceive them to be because of your particular prejudices. These are simple facts, and we know that there is a fear abroad in the land, not only because of the question of gay, lesbian, transgender people, but also because of immigrants. We have seen in the last few days a real determination to eliminate illegal immigrants from the United States. I have to tell you something. I only judge a person by who they are and whether or not they've committed a crime. Now, some would argue that the crime is that they entered the United States illegally. I have a problem with that. If you live in this country and you are a good citizen, a good participant in society, if you're making money and paying your taxes, don't you think they should be given a break? I do. Oh, let me be clear. I'm not in favor of murderers or rapists or crooks being admitted to the United States. No, that's why we have immigration laws. But there is something going on now which bothers me. It is scapegoating. Whether it has to do with transgender people or it has to do with immigrants, there is a scapegoating going on. The idea that if you blame the other, you are stronger, more secure. I have to tell you, this is something that I think is profoundly disturbing, because it means that in America, in this great country, scapegoating counts for something. I don't think it should. And I think that Republican leaders and Democratic leaders and presidents and senators and members of Congress should have the good sense to understand that. There is now a war being waged against individual people in the United States. And that war is being waged by the federal government. And there is fear abroad in the land. We are told that the House of Representatives will hold hearings on the question of sanctuary cities, that mayors of cities that declare themselves sanctuary cities will be called in to testify, to explain, I think really to justify. This, in my judgment, is a misuse of the power of Congress. We should be working together to resolve social issues, not attacking the other. And I say that one day after the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. The whole idea of Hitler's Germany was scapegoating. And that is something we in the United States have consistently rejected. We don't scapegoat. If there's a problem, we try to resolve it, but not using pejorative terms, and certainly not going after members of our society who are constructive, solid citizens simply because they have a Spanish accent, or they're transgender, or they're gay or lesbian. This, to me, is a fundamental point of equity in America. We believe in an equal society. We don't believe that criminals should have a chance to get away with it, no matter who they are or what level they rise to. But we do believe that individual citizens should be judged fairly. So this is an argument against the idea of scapegoating, of prejudice, and frankly, of trying to restore our society to that healthy sense that we all ought to have. Thanks for tuning into another episode of Around the Political World with John Rothman. Make sure to follow along and let me know your thoughts on the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you are, and of course, sharing an episode with a friend or colleague so we can continue to grow and expand, which is, as you know, our goal. You can interact with me on LinkedIn, on Facebook. Many of you email me, and I'm delighted to hear from you. I want to thank Go-Go Zoger, the wonderful producer of this podcast. I am John Rothman, and you are listening to Around the Political World with John Rothman. I'll see you tomorrow.